interested in wind in the future, another project. It also satisfies us when we go for like tax equity. We go to the banks, they'll have questions about the clarification. We're just trying to save coming back in some months and having these discussions again.
Anything we have will be something that's been out there for 10 years, say, and been proven.
Okay, the turbine itself, no, because they're new models coming out, and they're improved. It's like a car, right? Cars are improved.
That's what I
over
wondered,
time.
if they've been tested over a period of time, the reliability of the thing is there, you
Yeah.
know?
So I
It's a
think
reliable company that we purchased from, and all that.
Will these meet type certification?
they will, absolutely. And also, you've got some standards. They've got to be independently tested or proven that they meet the type certifications. And also that no prototypes can be used. I stated before, we're not going to use a prototype. We don't use prototypes are in Colorado at a government-owned site, and we don't use prototypes because you can't get them built, can't get them approved. So I think the language in the law satisfies that. It certainly keeps the bounds on us not to do older, unproven, or prototype technology.
In regards to models, you guys must have something that you want to pick, because I know you say the topography, there's over in Howard, there's windmills operating, Cohocton, there's some already been selected down for Canasteel and Greenwood. They've already picked their models. So I mean, it's not that complex of an area, I wouldn't think.
Right, Arkwright's already building them, right? So add that to your list.
So I mean, yours,
Yeah.
it's similar situations, but you guys are kind of pigeonholing, make it sound like you can't pick this one because it's so different around here.
Yeah, so what we found is, the model that we wanted to go with, we can't. And the reason being is the tree heights within the community, we believe, are tall enough where they won't allow blades of a certain length, which are all within the town law, all within the height maximums. That's the box, and everything else we do fits inside the box, right? So you have a couple choices. You clear trees, which we're not going to do, right? To keep them from restricting airflow, we're not going to do that. Nothing in the town law, allows us to clear trees, and it doesn't make sense as an environmental company. It's not our mandate. The other thing you can do is you can use, as you're alluding to, use a shorter diameter rotor. That's it. So you're able to get slightly above the trees. So you fit within the law, but you are able to avoid some of the tree height issues that we're concerned about. So there's no mystery. We're not trying to be, obfuscated or any of those things. This is just standard practice and where we are. Yeah.
So you're saying we have taller trees in Fremont versus Howard?
It's funny. We did aerials in, we don't know. So we did aerials in Casadega. And and we found that some of the trees are higher than we expected. So it's a function of selective forestry. It's a function of a state forest, right, in the area, Baldwell State Forest, so there's no tree cutting. So we don't know until we're able to do some initial analyses, which would include doing an aerial survey. We actually fly and we do a light survey. Light reflects off the branches and the leaves, pine needles and all, and that tells us how tall the trees are in certain areas. Happy to share the info if you're interested. Kind of neat. But that helps us to do the finalization of the turbine. You're exactly right. Yeah. And then once we get the information, then we choose the one that's suitable, as Mike was just saying. So that's where we are. There's nothing hidden.
Yeah, and I kind of don't think you're right. I'm not sure if the trees over in Cohocton are any taller than over here, and they have shorter turbines, right?
Yeah, Arkwright too. Well, they're not short. They're different rotor, different diameters of the blade.
Our blades would be longer. Is that what makes them
No,
larger?
it's not determined. It's not determined. What I can tell you is everything will fit within the.
How can you guys submit the Article 10 application if you don't have all this determined?
Yeah, so if you look at some of those, they submit it with multiple turbines under consideration. That's how you do it.
Oh, that's how you guys did it. But
Well,
like Canasteel, Greenwood,
They would do the same
chose
thing.
their turbine.
Exactly. No, they would say it's going to be of this type or similar, right, as they're finishing up some of the studies. So you want to go ahead and get the Article 10 process now, because it takes 12 months or more to process. That's a long time, right? So not knowing as technology changes for windmills, as technology changes for lighting, you know, we mentioned sound mitigation, those types of technologies, then you want to give some optionality to use the best in class for the project.
I've got a question. Chip, isn't it? Is that Chip? What's the protocol for the people, you didn't like the well issue, what was the protocol for the people that received the letters about their wells? I mean, you would assume it would be distance.
Yeah, I think there was, I asked Mike, I think it was originally a 1,000-foot proposal.
Yep, so it was originally 1,000 feet, then we agreed to 2,000 feet, and what has come back in...
You're not answering the question. What was the
Well, we're just
protocol that you used to send all these people up in my neck of the woods letters? I mean, I'm more than 2,000 feet away. I received a letter. So that's what I'm trying to determine. What
Yeah.
was the protocol that you guys used to determine who got letters about their wells?
Yeah, I do not want to misspeak, so I can definitely get you an answer for who...
I mean,
what was
we've
the
talked about this
criteria.
over and over, and you don't like it, but you can't even tell me what you used to get to that determination.
So Mike, you had what was it, 1,000-foot originally, it was bumped up to 2,000 feet?
But that was just
Yeah,
talk
so
between you guys and the
probably
board.
you're Within or near that 2,000-foot boundary, right?
Well,
So
this
but-
was before any discussion went on, it was, people
The
got
letters from
letters
EDR.
sent to their houses.
From environmental design, a lot of people got letters, and I'm just
Nothing.
trying to determine
So let me-
why they got them.
Yeah, definitely understood. And I think, you know, we can get an answer for you from Seth, because he worked with EDR to
Uh-huh.
do that for the environmental.
I've asked him this multiple times before, and we don't seem to get an answer. You know, you don't like the language in there, but yet we can't get an answer on why people, you know, received letters. I mean, again, just common sense, it would be based on some kind of footage.
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
so I'd say it's Tom, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
So Tom, why don't we'll capture that question, right? We'll create an answer and email it to all of you. And Tom, if you can let us have your email address as well, or some way to contact you.
Okay.
Happy to respond to it.
okay.
You know, again, I think it's something, there's no underlying scheming going on. It's
No, I'm not saying they're scheming, I'm
Yeah,
just
we
trying to determine why, you know,
Sure.
why people got letters, and,
Yeah.
Yep.
and, you know, the numbers you guys are saying, first it was 500, 1,000, 2,000, but yet I know I got a letter, and the closest windmill's gonna be more than 2,000, so I'm just trying to figure out, you know, why certain people got letters.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, good deal, fair enough.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question too. In the technology field, things change rapidly sometimes. The technology between Cohocton and Howard has got to be quite a bit. How much? You have any idea?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, the technology with Cohocton, on the minutia level, the generators are different. So that was a Clipper wind turbine. And the Clipper was a more so, I'd say it's more so a prototype design, exactly what you're alluding to, or you're talking about, where they put 4 generators within the turbine. And if one of the generators went bad for whatever reason, you could pull out the one, leave the other 3 running, so the turbine's still operating, and you could replace the one on the fly. So since then, that turbine manufacturer is no longer in business. The technology's been acquired by other companies, which is, you know, typical to pick up the intellectual property. And there's no more Clipper turbine, right? So that's one. What you see, I think, the differences, as you guys know, and you've seen in the news, like heights change, rotor diameters change, more efficient generators come into play as well, even down to the computer systems, the operating systems, all of this, the lighting that's used, you know, we touched on as well. Anything you can imagine that would have some, even foundation design, you name it, has had some level of improvement over time. And that's why you can't necessarily determine, you know, 2 years ago or so when we started, yeah, you don't know. So that's why you want to cover yourself and put, you know, other turbines, choose the worst, what is it, the loudest or worst case scenario, study that one, and then you fit within the confines of the regulations. Yeah.
Now, the clause, the developer will install the lowest noise model available within the selected manufacturer's options. So that's when you select your turbine, you choose the lowest model.
Right.
We've seen in a lot of documentation that they do have quiet models. Seth showed us, you know, a couple of the documents and everything.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
we're asking.
Yeah, and we know the intent, we know your intent there, makes total sense. We just ask that, just ask for the clarification, you know, within turbines suitable for
This
the,
area.
yeah, for the area, or the environment, yeah, that's all.
But that would, you select your turbine and then you select the quietest one. It's,
Yeah, and that's exactly, we understand the intent. Only
We
asking
shouldn't
for the
have to
simple, yeah, the simple
add that clause
clarification.
in there.
So I think just the way that sentence currently reads, you know, let's say we go with Vestas. And Vestas has a turbine model that's rated at 105.5 dBA
Mhm.
sound output. That 105.5 dBA really only works for, you know, middle America, plain farmland type stuff. Then the model that we actually have to choose is, let's say, 105.6. And that works for this area. We would be out of compliance because we just chose a 105.6 over a 105.5.
But when you select your turbine group for the area, then you select the lowest noise model. It's not, and Seth showed us one that was 103.9.
Sure, yeah.
So that's
I think
kind of
as an
where
example.
we have,
Yeah.
our focus is on the quietest model that you guys can purchase.
Yeah, and again, okay.
And that was a negotiated item because we were at 42 at night.
Yeah, and I
So-
think we're all in agreement that we will choose the lowest noise model
Okay.
for the turbines that work for this area.
I guess I don't understand, how come you can't pick one now? I mean, you've been signing people up for what, 6, 7, 8 years, and you still can't determine with the topography and everything else what model you need? It just kind of boggles my mind.
I mean, I think, you know, as Chip kind of alluded to earlier, there are numerous factors that go into the turbine selection,
Uh-huh.
and we are currently in the process of selecting the right turbine. So we're not trying to delay this, but we're at the stage of the project
Okay.
where we are ready to move forward with procuring that turbine.
It has more to do with the stage of project than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked together on this for the last few months.
Yeah.
And this is the third time you guys have come back and want us to change stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, at least from my perspective, that, you know, we've been at this for 4 months now. And I think our goal, and everybody's goal here, is really to create a project that works for this town. And that it's gonna be operationally good, and it's gonna be the best world-class energy project. So, you know, what, in my view, we're really just being your consultant on this document. We're not trying to pull anything over your head. We are just trying to advise you so, like, we can accomplish the goals that we all hope we can achieve.
Yeah, I think too, is some of the responses we've had have been comments or inputs to items that have been introduced by the board. So this is the first time we've seen an aircraft detection lighting system. Was it last night? Was when we saw it. That's the first time. The original law was a 50 dB L10, which was acceptable. Then it dropped down we went to an LEQ and then back to an L10. You can tell we're passionate about that. So we're trying to protect, you know, items that have been agreed upon. I think discussions that have occurred. You know, the well item is a new item.
Well,
Yeah.
kind of.
The
It's
3,000.
been brought up
yeah.
at every meeting for a year and a half now.
And so those are, I don't feel that we're coming back introducing changes. I believe we're reactive to changes that are being introduced.
See, it's a learning process for all of us, and we
Yeah,
learn
totally,
new
yeah.
things every week.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, we forgot about this. We need to add this. So the more we keep going at this, the more we're gonna learn.
Totally. Well, I get too. I would feel a frustration as well when, you know, we come back and ask for a single word, you know, practicable. And it's like, what's the point? As you said before with the previous clause, we understand the intent of the lowest sound model available. We get it, but I can understand the frustration as we push for a few extra words. For the long run, to provide that clarification, another goal of ours is not to have to come back here in a few months and ask for some additional variance waiver. I another amendment, which none of us went. That's why we, you know, we provide the detail and also, you know, provide a suggestion of what we think is acceptable wording on both sides of the table.
We've tried to work both sides of the table for months, just,
I think the hardest thing for all of us is knowing that other municipalities have already signed and have more ducks in a row than what we have had here. And we more or less came into it more blind than some. And that has raised a lot of questions with taxpayers throughout our community, as well as ourselves, knowing, are we doing the right thing in the right place, in the right order, in the right time, in the right model, in the right everything? Will we get all of that? Probably not. But will we at least know we tried to do the best we can for this community?
Yeah, I had one issue I haven't heard anybody talking about. You know, and I and our planning board, they really worked long hours on our comprehensive plan, and I haven't heard anybody talking about that. I mean, it seems to me you should just have some language in there, something simple that any project coming into the town of Fremont should abide by our comprehensive plan. I mean, they worked and put a lot of time into that, and that would cover a lot of these issues.
And I wonder right now, Tom, if that needs to be updated as we speak.
Oh, it hadn't been updated in 20 years. They updated it 6 years ago, and I believe by law it's every 10.
10 or something like
Yeah.
that, but we've had a lot of changes, a lot of
Yeah.
implementations of different things, solar and all this other stuff
Right.
that's on their plate at the same time.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you know what, I don't know why you guys couldn't just throw some simple language in there saying, and abide by our comprehensive plan, something simple. Say a lot of time was put into that, and that there's a lot of useful information in our comprehensive plan.
I still would like to know if the 3 people from EverPower and the 2 from Energy, do you live near any of these turbines? Can you answer me that?
Yeah, the answer is no. I
No,
do not.
no. The people that are getting the windmills in the town are not living near these turbines. We are going to be living near them, okay? So we have more concerns than the ones that are going to be collecting the money off these. That's our concern. So I don't know how you can sit there and say, oh, there's going to be no problems and everything's hunky-dory, because you do not live near them.
That was
If you
fine.
could answer me that you live near them and there's no problems, I guess then maybe I might feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
There's
Thanks for that.
only a few people in this town that are getting the windmills, and they are living nowhere near them.
Right, so, and that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
And I'm sorry to be like that,
No,
but
that's
that's
fine.
how I feel.
Great point, I've certainly heard this before. Yeah, it totally makes sense, great comment. No, I lived in Buffalo, the projects were in Eagle and Bliss.
And they didn't
45
want them
minute
in
drive.
Buffalo.
Well,
did
they?
sorry, in Eagle and Bliss, their turbines operating today. So, okay, so, you're right, I don't live in the area, and I'm curious, as I was doing development in those projects and the same discussions, we never say everything's gonna be okay and hunky-dory. I don't remember that, perhaps it might be on Tom's video. But what we said is we're gonna work closely with you all to try to bring a best-in-class project with the benefits to the community that we possibly can. We're committed to that. So how do you know the people who live near them, they don't want them? So what we do is we go out and we talk to landowners within the project areas. I would love to take you had the sound going a minute ago with the device. You know, rather than rely on a Makita speaker, not the best in quality, certainly no better than your ears. You get in a bus and you take a trip up to Eagle and you knock on doors and you talk to people. Now we did that just last week in the community. We went and talked to people and we asked them, what's your view of the wind turbines, right? And then we went to the operations center and we talked to them about the complaints they received because they have to log them, right? And I'm sure they'd love to show you the logs. The complaint line, when the turbines first went in, they did have some complaints, right? I think people were getting used to the turbines, seeing them, everything we talked about. But they had not had, the last complaint they received was a gate that was left open by somebody, assumed to be the project owner, which led a bunch of cows across the street to eat up somebody's cornfield. That was it. The last call, and that was maybe a couple